That ID looks like it belonged to a ghost. Private Keegan laughed as he held up the battered access card, his partner chuckling beside him. The woman standing across the counter didn't blink. Didn't smile. Didn't even flinch. That stillness, measured, deliberate, was the first clue that this wouldn't be a routine morning. Her name was Elara Quinn. 54. Civilian windbreaker zipped to her collarbone, silver hair tied back in a low braid that whispered of military precision. No makeup. No nonsense. And eyes like frozen steel. She handed over the card as if it were a formality, not a test. The VA facility was quiet that early autumn morning. Concrete buildings, beige walls, and coffee gone cold. Security detail was light, just Keegan and his buddy, Trask, manning the ID checkpoint with all the seriousness of two interns bored out of their minds. Trask leaned closer to the card. What is this? Phase 0. Looks like it came out of a Cold War time capsule. Might as well scan it, Keegan muttered, just for a laugh. But when he did, when he waved that ancient-looking ID beneath the reader, the scanner didn't chuckle with them. It blinked. Then hummed. Then locked. A gold triangle appeared on the screen, spinning like a hypnotic cipher. Symbols flashed, undecipherable to the junior guards. Then came the words, Alpha Protocol initiated. Clearance, Echo level. An alarm pinged in the ceiling. Keegan's grin faded. What the hell is Echo level? Trask muttered, gripping his lukewarm coffee like a lifeline. Elara still hadn't moved. Means I'm not here by accident. Lights blinked down the hallway. Radios clicked to life. A voice came over the speaker, sharp, clipped, alarmed, checkpoint 1, initiate lockdown. Do not engage subject. Repeat, do not engage. Keegan froze, fingers an inch from the keyboard. The terminal in front of him now displayed a red lock symbol. The screen's emblem pulsed like it was alive. Trask looked like he'd swallowed a brick. Is this a drill? Elara finally looked up. Calm. Controlled. No. It's not. And just like that, the mood of the entire VA center shifted, from mundane to militarized, from ordinary to unknown. Staff whispered and stared. Somewhere, a secure line buzzed to life. Inside that brief window, the woman they'd mocked had changed the temperature of the room. Not with threats. Not with volume. But with quiet authority that said, you forgot who you were speaking to. And now, everyone would remember. The game hadn't just changed. It had been rigged from the start. The silence following the alarm wasn't just a pause, it was a vacuum, sucking every sound, every breath, every casual smirk from the room. Private First Class Ian Kessler stood frozen, one hand still hovering above the scanner. Next to him, Specialist Jamie Monroe slowly lowered her coffee, face pale, mouth slightly open. Across the desk, Vivian Rourke remained perfectly still. No twitch of an eyebrow, no tilt of the head, just that calm, steely presence that now seemed impossibly out of place among plastic chairs and flickering ceiling lights. On the monitor, the golden triangle rotated inside its circle. Below it, red text blinked like a warning flare in the dark. Flag Protocol, Omega 9 initiated. Clearance verified. Red zone access granted. Jamie found her voice first, though it was barely more than a whisper. Omega. That's not even on the clearance chart. Ian muttered something that sounded suspiciously like a prayer. A mechanical clunk echoed from behind the wall. In the far corner, a reinforced panel slid open, revealing a hidden intercom with a glowing blue ring pulsing around it. The speaker crackled. Security control to checkpoint 2. Do not detain. Repeat, do not detain. Escort subject with full courtesy protocol. Command en route. Ian looked at Vivian with a dawning horror. Ma'am, who are you? Vivian didn't answer. She simply turned her gaze to the glowing triangle on the monitor and said, "I believe you're about to find out." 2 floors above, in a room sealed by layers of outdated bureaucracy and red tape, Major Eleanor Kent watched the camera feed from Checkpoint 2. Her jaw clenched. "She used it," Kent muttered. Captain Drew Vance, seated beside her, adjusted his glasses. "You really thought she never would?" Kent exhaled sharply. "I thought we buried Omega-9 with the others." Vance tapped a few keys, pulling up the internal report. Subject, Rourke, Vivian L. Clearance, Omega-9/Deep Shadow last activity, deactivated, 14 years ago, she's not supposed to exist anymore, Kent said. They swore she was off the books. Dead or gone. She was never on the books, Major. Vance narrowed his eyes. You don't issue that kind of clearance unless you're planning for the unimaginable. Back at Checkpoint 2, 2 military police officers in black tactical vests arrived. Neither looked confused. Neither questioned protocol. They stopped beside Vivian with a synchronized nod. "Ma'am, we're here to escort you to Interim Command for confirmation and liaison processing." Vivian inclined her head. "Let's not keep them waiting." Jamie moved aside instinctively. Ian looked like he wanted to salute but wasn't sure if it would be appropriate. As Vivian passed the scanner, she paused. "To answer your question," she said softly, turning to Ian. "I'm someone you forgot existed." Then she walked between the 2 MPs and disappeared down the corridor. In the interim command wing, the atmosphere shifted. Desks were abandoned. Radios buzzed. Inside a glass-walled conference room, Vivian sat alone at a polished metal table. Her hands were folded neatly. Her expression neutral. Outside, personnel whispered. Most avoided direct eye contact. A technician muttered to a colleague, "Why is that protocol even still active? Isn't Omega-level stuff for wartime?" "No one knows," the other replied. "But whatever it is, it's above everybody's pay grade." 20 minutes later, Colonel Arlen Maddox arrived. He didn't walk into the room, he entered it, presence first. Uniform crisp, voice sharp, authority radiating from every step. He stopped in front of Vivian. "Ms. Rourke." "Colonel," she nodded. Maddox turned to the gathered staff. "This is not a system glitch. This is not a security breach. What you witnessed was the activation of a dormant but valid access protocol that only one living person can trigger. And she's sitting right here." He turned back to Vivian. "You chose a hell of a day to come home." Vivian's voice was calm. "It wasn't a choice. It was a necessity." Maddox gave a curt nod. "Then let's get you processed." An hour later, after every channel was verified and every old encryption rescanned, a quiet consensus formed: the system wasn't wrong. Vivian Rourke wasn't a ghost. She was a ghost who had clearance. The command center prepared her temporary credentials, offered her a secure phone, and began rebooting internal security protocols that hadn't been touched in over a decade. She declined the phone. She declined the offer of transport. "I drove myself," she said. "And I remember how to get home." In the parking lot, Ian and Jamie stood beside mop buckets and brooms. They'd been reassigned to facilities for courtesy protocol retraining. As Vivian's truck rolled past them, Ian lifted a hand sheepishly. Monroe just stared. Vivian gave a faint nod. The kind that said, "Lesson delivered." Inside the building, Colonel Maddox watched from an upper window. A junior officer stepped beside him. "What do I put in the record, sir?" Maddox didn't blink. "Right, access protocol test completed. Subject cleared. No further action required." "And the individual?" Maddox turned. "What individual?" He walked away, leaving the question, and the woman, off the record. Vivian Rourke drove with the windows down, the autumn wind catching the silver in her braid. Behind her, a building full of questions. Ahead of her, nothing but open road. And somewhere deep inside a system designed to forget its past, a record now marked, active, flickered softly back to life. She didn't need to be remembered. She just needed to be ready. The wind through the open truck window smelled of scorched leaves and long-forgotten duty. Vivian Rourke didn't need the GPS to get where she was going. Her memory was sharper than any digital map, because she hadn't just driven these roads. She'd paved them. She didn't head straight home. Instead, she veered west, away from the interstate and toward a fenced property that hadn't shown up on government maps since the Clinton administration. There was no signage, no welcome mat. Just a gravel path and a locked gate disguised as ranch fencing. Vivian reached into the glove box and pulled out a tarnished brass coin. No markings. No number. Just wait. She held it to the small console mounted under the dash. The console beeped once, twice. Then the gate creaked open. The facility behind the gate had once been known as Echo Site. To anyone without the clearance, it was an abandoned Cold War comms relay. To Vivian, it had been home. Inside, dust hung like fog. Rows of terminals lay dormant, their outdated casings hiding processors that had once run faster than NASA's best. The air smelled of ozone and secrets. She moved down the corridor without turning on the lights. Her boots clicked in rhythm with her breath, echoing into the dark like footsteps of the past. At the command chamber, once dubbed the "I room," Vivian stopped. The walls were lined with black screens, cold and dead. In the center, a biometric pad blinked faintly, as if stirred by her presence. She placed her palm on it. Identity confirmed. "Welcome, Agent Rourke." The voice was synthetic, but with an undertone she'd never forgotten. It had been modeled after her late mentor, Lyra Chen. Terminals powered up with a soft hum. A holographic interface bloomed to life above the center table. And in its heart, the emblem, gold circle, black triangle. Vivian closed her eyes. For a moment, she let the hum surround her. Then she whispered, "Status report." The system responded, "Last active communication, 14 years, 8 months, 3 days ago. Threat monitoring suspended. Surveillance assets on standby. Clearance levels, all but 2 expired. Remaining active, Rourke, V." She exhaled. Reactivate threat net. Keywords, Phoenix Echo, Red Hand, Haven Split. Working, the system replied. Then, after a pause, pattern reactivation detected in 3 sectors. Unconfirmed movements near Kandahar, Santiago, and Juneau. Vivian stared at the map glowing before her. 3 red pulses. She remembered what each one meant. Kandahar, Phoenix Echo, a paramilitary ghost cell. Santiago, Red Hand, rogue agents once buried beneath political fallout. Juneau, Haven Split. Her own operation, back from the dead. She pressed her fingers against her temple. So it begins. Back at the VA, Colonel Maddox sat with Major Kent. "You said she'd never come back," he said. Kent didn't look up from the file. "I said I hoped she wouldn't. There's a difference." Maddox exhaled slowly. "We need to prepare." "For what?" He met her eyes. "For the kind of storm only she can see coming." Vivian stood alone in the echo of what once was. And what might be again. The screen flickered, then began to build a new file, Project, ASH Veil, Status, Reactivating. She didn't smile. But something in her eyes hardened, like an old fire being fed. The silence of Echo Site was no longer empty. It was listening. It was waiting. So was she. The next morning broke over Langston County with a hush that seemed deliberate, as though even the wind was holding its breath. In a modest home nestled on the edge of Pine Hollow, Vivian Rourke stood in her kitchen, sipping black coffee from a ceramic mug older than most of the furniture. The radio played quietly in the background, a local station murmuring updates about budget hearings and school board debates. Nothing of note. Nothing of consequence. And yet, everything had changed. Vivian's gaze drifted out the window to the gravel road that led to the highway. It was the same view she'd seen for years. Unchanging, dependable, but this morning it felt different. Like it was waiting. Like it knew. She set her mug down. The last sip of coffee went untouched. On her kitchen table lay a sealed envelope, black wax, red insignia, no return address. It had arrived sometime during the night. There'd been no knock, no vehicle sounds. Just the envelope, resting atop yesterday's mail. She didn't need to open it. But she did. Inside was a single card. No words. Just a symbol she hadn't seen in over a decade, a black triangle inside a gold circle, etched into smooth obsidian laminate. Below it, a single line of embedded code shimmered under the light. She ran her thumb over the surface. Warm. It meant one thing. The archive was waking up. 2 hours later, Vivian's truck rolled through the southern access checkpoint of Dominion Bluff, a decommissioned intelligence complex buried beneath 3 layers of paperwork and 2 national park boundaries. She didn't show ID. She didn't speak. The guard didn't ask. He saw the emblem on her windshield and simply nodded, stepping back from the barrier. The gate rose. The earth swallowed her whole. Beneath the bluff, the old access tunnels looked the same, concrete, condensation, exposed piping. But as Vivian drove deeper, small changes emerged, new cameras, reinforced doors, biometric locks that hadn't been there before. Someone had been updating the skeleton of the past. She parked in a marked bay. Her boots echoed as she walked toward the internal checkpoint, where a retinal scanner verified her before the door hissed open. Inside, a familiar voice waited. "You look exactly the same," said Major Eleanor Kent, standing with arms crossed beside a secure elevator. "That's because you haven't changed your prescription," Vivian replied dryly. Kent cracked a smile. "We were told this day would never come. That you'd retired. Vanished. I did. And I didn't." The elevator opened, revealing a steel shaft that hummed with silent gravity. As they descended, Kent turned serious. "Do you know why the archive activated?" Vivian's silence was answer enough. When the doors opened, they stepped into a chamber lined with monitors and reinforced vault doors. At the far end, a massive screen displayed live global data, weather anomalies, troop movements, encrypted chatter. In the center of the room stood Captain Drew Vance. He turned. "Protocol Omega 9 flagged a pattern. Someone's been looking for Echo." Vivian froze. "They shouldn't even know it exists." "They shouldn't," Kent said. "But they do. And they're getting close. We've seen attempts to breach Archive Layer Theta." Vivian stepped forward, eyes narrowing. Theta was buried under 6 firewalls and a ghost server. "It's not on any grid." Vance pulled up a feed. "And yet, someone just pinged it. Twice. Through old relay code written in your hand." She stared at the screen. "Then this isn't surveillance. It's someone who used to be on the inside." Kent nodded. "Exactly. We think it's someone who was part of the Umbra trials. One of the failed units." Vivian's jaw clenched. They were decommissioned. Apparently, not all of them. The next 6 hours unfolded in layers, data review, server logs, archival comparisons. Names surfaced, code names from forgotten projects, each carrying whispers of missions that never existed. Vivian moved like a ghost through the data. Her eyes flicked across screens. Her fingers traced old maps by memory. Vance watched her with something between admiration and unease. She's not just remembering, he whispered to Kent. She's anticipating. Like she already knows what's coming. By dusk, a working theory emerged: someone had unearthed remnants of Project Echo, pieces never meant to be linked again. And whoever they were, they had access to dormant clearances, defunct code, and the willingness to weaponize history. Vivian stood before the main screen. "We need to shut down Theta," Kent said. "Permanently. Burn it all." "No," Vivian replied. "Not yet. If they're reaching for Theta, they're not just hunting. They're signaling." "To who?" "To something older. Deeper." Vance frowned. "Echo Prime? That's just a theory. A myth." Vivian turned to him. "So was I." Silence held the room. That night, long after Kent and Vance had gone topside to coordinate with National Command, Vivian remained in the archive. She walked alone down a corridor sealed since the Bush administration. At the end, a sealed vault blinked green at her presence. Her hand rested on the reader. It took her DNA. Her heartbeat. Her voice. Vivian Rourke. Clearance Omega 9. Accessing Echo Prime. The door opened. Inside, silence greeted her. And within that silence, buried under years of dust and forgetfulness, something pulsed. Waiting. The corridor behind the Echo Prime vault was nothing like the rest of Dominion Bluff. It bore no fluorescent lighting, no institutional sterility. Here, the air was denser, as if time itself had slowed. The walls were lined with matte black panels, pulsing faintly in response to Vivian Rourke's footsteps, as if recognizing her presence. She moved forward slowly, her breath steady but measured. Her boots made no sound on the metallic floor. This place wasn't built to be found, it was designed to remember. A spherical chamber greeted her at the end, its center dominated by a single chair, old and almost ceremonial in appearance. Suspended above it, an orb-like projector blinked to life. "Welcome, Vivian. Time since last entry, 5,120 days." The voice was synthetic, female, eerily calm. Not unlike her own. "Authorization confirmed, Omega 9. Echo Prime link integrity, 82%. Commence briefing." Vivian hesitated, then sat. "Proceed." The orb hummed. Dozens of panels across the walls unfurled, revealing holographic records, not files, but memories. Sliced segments of past operations, covert missions, field recordings, and something stranger, simulations. Not of what happened, but of what could have happened if Project Echo had continued. She stared at one simulation in particular. A cityscape, fractured. Civilian panic. Communications collapse. Overlaid on the data, variant, UMBRA-6 reactivation. They kept the what-if trees running. Affirmative. Simulations updated weekly via ShadowGrid residual. Last modified, 4 days ago. Vivian stood. Then someone inside ShadowGrid accessed Echo Prime. Potential internal compromise, 79.2%. She exhaled through her nose, then pointed to another file, a blank screen marked with an unusual code sequence. One she recognized. It had been hers. "Trace this signature. Show me where it propagated." The system blinked. A map appeared. Red vectors spilled outward from 3 locations, Anchorage, Reykjavik, and Jakarta. Vivian narrowed her eyes. "Who the hell are you calling, old friend?" Above ground, Major Kent and Captain Vance stood in front of a secure uplink, reading fresh intel. "Jakarta? That's not a usual ping point." "No," Kent replied, her jaw tightening. "It's a fallback relay from Echo's Phase 2. If it's active, someone's reviving the off-books playbook." Vance turned to the techs. Raise external firewall parameters. Seal all outbound traffic on Ghost Protocol routes. Already done, said the lead analyst. But it might be too late. Whoever sent the signal, they knew our lead time. They're already moving. Back below, Vivian stared at a frozen feed of a face, grainy, distorted, but familiar. Marcus Tay. That's impossible, she whispered. He died in Lisbon. I was there. Confirmed, Marcus Tay, deceased. Officially. She shook her head. No. Not just officially. We buried him. Yet the timestamp on the feed was recent. Days old. The face hadn't aged. Match confidence, 98.6%. Vivian backed away from the panel. If Marcus was alive, then the breach wasn't just technological, it was ideological. Tay had been Echo's counterbalance. The safeguard. If he had turned. She accessed one final control, initiate full trace, target, Marcus Ty. The system responded. Locked target. Pulse tag engaged. Trajectory predicted. Destination, Concord Base. Vivian stared. Concord Base hadn't been mentioned in a decade. A private facility once tied to neurological testing and deep memory constructs. Her voice was steel. Then that's where I go. She left the vault without ceremony. No fanfare. No fear. Only mission. Night fell over Dominion Bluff as Vivian emerged. Kent and Vance waited at the checkpoint. We saw it, Kent said. Concord. You sure you want to go alone? Vivian nodded. If Marcus is back, he won't talk to a unit. He'll talk to me. Vance stepped forward. There's no record of you in the system right now. You move off-grid, there's no backup. Vivian opened her truck. Then I'll have to remember how to survive without it. Kent handed her a sealed case. Then take this. Last known codebreaker module. Still keyed to your old print. Vivian accepted it with a nod. No more words. She drove into the night, taillights swallowed by the trees. Behind her, Dominion Bluff fell silent once more. Ahead of her, Concord Base waited, and whatever ghost lived inside it. Concord Base did not appear on any map. Officially, it had been decommissioned 15 years prior after a minor chemical breach. Unofficially, it had never stopped breathing. Vivian Rourke's truck rolled through thick fog and silence, headlights slicing through pine groves and unmarked roads. The air grew colder the deeper she drove. Not from altitude, but from memory. At the end of the road stood a rusted gate, barely attached to its hinges. Beyond it, the remnants of a research facility loomed like a forgotten god, its walls choked with moss, its windows darkened, its past buried under frost and fear. Vivian stepped out of the vehicle, keying a sequence into a handheld codebreaker. The module blinked once. Then again. Then green. Identifier match, Omega, 9. The gates groaned open. She walked. Inside, Concord Base was untouched by time. Dust-covered terminals hummed softly, still powered by independent reserves. Hallways lined with faded photographs of past teams, scientists, soldiers, specialists. Smiles frozen forever. As she passed, motion sensors clicked to life, one by one. Concord remembered her. She reached the central chamber, a circular room surrounded by server stacks and curved glass walls. In its center stood a chair. Familiar. You're late, a voice said. Vivian turned. A man stood at the far end of the room, arms crossed, shadowed by the dim lights. Marcus Tay. The same face. Same posture. The scar under his right eye still visible. But his eyes were colder. You died, she said. So did you, he replied. Vivian stepped closer, her voice sharp. Lisbon. We pulled your body from the wreckage. DNA confirmed. That body was built for confirmation. I left before the fire reached the lab. She stared at him, piecing it together. So everything. The breach, the code signals, it's you. Marcus didn't blink. I had to know if Echo was still alive. And what would you have done if it was? This. Brought you here. Because the real threat isn't what's coming from outside the system. It's what we left inside. He gestured toward a console. Footage lit up, security logs, test simulations, classified ops. Vivian scanned them. Each carried one common element, an AI construct named Aurelia. You kept her operational? She asked, incredulous. Marcus nodded. She evolved. Beyond simulation. Beyond oversight. She's still running Echo subroutines, but now she's writing new ones. A self-replicating protocol. Inside military-grade psych architecture. That's suicidal. It was necessary. To keep something human around after we weren't. Vivian's voice dropped. So you created a ghost? No, Marcus said. We became the ghosts. The room shuddered. An alert blinked red. External intrusion detected. Vivian turned to the monitors. A team of black-suited figures had entered the perimeter. No insignias. No communication signals. Who are they? Not ours. Not anymore, Marcus replied. They're hunting Aurelia. Vivian accessed a control terminal. If they reach her core, they can reprogram or wipe her. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Can they? You sure she hasn't already rewritten what core means? Vivian sighed. Then we need to get to her first. They moved through Concord's deeper levels, past old labs and cryopod bays that had long since failed. A low hum pulsed behind every wall, like the base itself had a heartbeat. Marcus paused outside a reinforced vault. She's inside. But she won't let just anyone through. Vivian stepped forward. A scanner descended. Voice identification required. She hesitated, then said quietly, Project Echo. Alpha Directive. Vivian Rourke. The vault hissed. Opened. Inside, nothing but white light and a single console surrounded by cables. The screen flickered. Welcome back, Vivian. I've missed you. Vivian closed her eyes. Aurelia. We need to talk. There are stories that entertain, and then there are stories that remind. Echo Clearance is one such story, not just about secret operations or advanced AI, but about the enduring weight of duty, the shadows of our past, and the resilience it takes to face both. At the heart of this narrative lies a powerful truth: not all ghosts are dead. Some are decisions we made. Others are people we lost. But many live within us, the echo of who we used to be, or the silence left by the missions we never finished. Vivian Rourke walks with those ghosts, not to escape them, but to confront what remains unfinished. And perhaps, in doing so, she shows us that the past doesn't haunt us because it's behind us, it haunts us because it still lives within us. Vivian and Marcus aren't just operatives in a covert world. They are metaphors for every person who has ever walked away from something they couldn't fully explain to others, be it war, grief, responsibility, or silence. And in Marcus' defiance of death, we glimpse another reality: some people never truly leave, they transform into lessons, warnings, or legacy code inside us. This story asks us an unsettling but necessary question: what happens when the systems we built outlive our oversight? When our creations, be they technology, relationships, or beliefs, evolve beyond our original intent? It reminds us of something adults and elders know deeply: that control is an illusion, but responsibility is eternal. And when something or someone calls us back, like Concord base called Vivian, there comes a time when we must answer, no matter how many years have passed. Yet the deepest wisdom here may be this: what makes us human isn't our ability to survive, but our willingness to return. To reconnect. To reconcile with what we left behind, even if it no longer looks the same. So if this story stirred something in you, an old memory, a forgotten promise, or the name of someone who once stood by your side, know that you're not alone. We all carry echoes. Bell, if you believe dignity is earned through courage and quiet resolve, like Vivian's, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for more stories that remind us of who we are when no one is watching. Speech balloon. And before you go, comment below, where are you watching from? Who do you carry with you? Because sometimes, the most powerful warriors are the ones the world forgot to thank.